All right, if you've ever written a Java application, you know the struggle I'm talking about. How do you get your beautiful code to actually talk to your database? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on Hibernate. It's this incredible tool that basically acts as a translator, creating an essential bridge between your code and all that data.
But let's be real for a second. Why is this even a problem? I mean, it feels like it should be simple, right? You've got your application logic, all neat and tidy with its objects and classes. And then you've got your database, which only understands tables, rows, and columns. It's like they're from two different planets. So what makes connecting these two worlds so tricky? Well, there's actually a name for this headache. It's called the object relational mismatch. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Your code and your database, they just don't speak the same language. Think about it. Your app is thinking in these flexible, connected objects, while your database is stuck thinking in rigid, flat tables. And that fundamental conflict, that's the root of everything.
So this leads to what we can call the database disconnect. And what does that mean for you, the developer? It means a ton of extra repetitive work. You might have heard it called the boilerplate problem, writing the same boring code over and over and over again.
Okay, so how do we fix this? How can we possibly build a bridge over that gap? The answer, my friends, is a really elegant concept called object relational mapping. You'll hear it called ORM for short. And this is the missing piece of the puzzle. So what is an ORM? At its heart, it's a technique that creates this kind of virtual object-friendly layer that sits right on top of your relational database. It handles all that messy translation for you, automatically. It lets you work with your data as if they were just regular objects in your code, which is exactly how your application wants to think.
You know, an ORM is a real workhorse. It does a few key jobs for you. First, it maps your Java classes directly to database tables. You don't have to think about it. Then it automates all those basic CRUD operations. Create, read, update, delete. It also completely abstracts away the gnarly SQL you'd normally have to write. And one of the biggest wins, it gives you database portability. That means you could switch from, say, PostgreSQL to MySQL without having to rewrite huge chunks of your code. Pretty amazing, right?
Okay, so we get the what and why of ORMs. Now let's meet the big player in this space, the star of our show today, Hibernate. It's one of the most popular, most powerful ORM tools out there for Java developers.
So what is Hibernate exactly? Well, it's an open source, lightweight framework that's been around since 2001. It's known for being really high performance. But here's a key detail. It implements something called the Java Persistence API, or JPA. Now, don't let the name scare you. JPA is basically just the official rulebook from Java that says, hey, this is how an ORM should behave. Hibernate follows that rulebook perfectly. But what's the real-world impact? How much work does this actually save you? Get this. Some estimates say Hibernate can eliminate up to 95% of the repetitive code you'd normally write just to save and retrieve data. 95%. Just think about that. All that tedious, error-prone JDBC code just gone. That's a huge amount of time you get back to focus on what really matters, building awesome features for your application.
All right, so how does this thing actually work? Is it magic? Well, not really. It's actually a pretty logical and well-thought-out process. So let's pop the hood and see what's going on inside. So a typical task in Hibernate follows a really clear set of steps. First, you configure it. That's usually a one-time setup thing. From that configuration, you create something super important called a session factory. Then, whenever you need to do something with the database, you open up a quick, temporary session. You start a transaction, you do your thing, maybe save a new user object or update a product, and once you're done, you commit that transaction and close the session. It's a clean, predictable flow.
Now, that distinction between a session factory and a session is absolutely crucial, and it trips a lot of people up at first. So let's make it super simple. Think of the session factory as the entire, factory building. It's heavyweight, it's expensive to create, and you really only want one for your entire application. A session, on the other hand, is like a single worker on the assembly line. It's lightweight, it's short-lived, and you grab a new one for every single task or transaction. That session is your main connection to the database for getting stuff done.
Another really cool concept is the life cycle of your objects. See, in the eyes of Hibernate, any object you work with is in one of three states. First, it's transient. That just means it's a brand new object you just created in your code. Hibernate doesn't know about it yet. Then, once you associate it with an active session, like by saving it, it becomes persistent. Now, Hibernate is watching it, tracking any changes you make. And finally, when you close that session, the object becomes detached. It still exists in your application's memory, but it's no longer connected to the database session.
Okay, so we've gone through the problem, the solution, and even some of the nitty-gritty mechanics. But what does this all mean for you, the developer? What's the real payoff here? Let's talk benefits.
And the payoff is huge. I mean, first off, you get that database independence we mentioned. Total freedom. You get to slash all that repetitive boilerplate code. But it gets even better. Hibernate gives you massive performance boosts through things like intelligent caching. And it has this awesome feature called lazy loading, which means it only fetches data from the database right when you actually need it. It can even generate your database tables for you from your Java classes and automatically handle those tricky one-to-many or many-to-many relationships. It's really the whole shebang.
So when you step back, you realize Hibernate is way more than just a library. It represents a fundamental idea in software engineering, the power of abstraction. By taking care of all the messy, low-level details, it frees you up to think at a higher level. You can focus on your business logic, on solving the real problems, instead of getting bogged down in the technical plumbing. And that really leads us with a bigger question to chew on, doesn't it? Beyond just code, how did these kinds of powerful abstractions change the way we approach and solve problems in everything we do?